Welcome to Nightlight Astrology's Weekend Wisdom series. I'm your host, Whitney Kranz, here with Alex Amorosi. And today we're going to talk about the new moon in Sagittarius on the 19th of this month. But before we get into it, we have to recognize Nightlight Astrology and Adam Elenbaas. We're so grateful to be here. And Adam right now is running his annual Kickstarter campaign. The Kickstarter season is going strong, and you can help too. Help Nightlight Astrology continue the wonderful work that they do, serving astrologers and astrology enthusiasts alike by heading over to the Kickstarter and donating to the mission. Go grab a class pass, so you can start your journey too. All right, now we're gonna talk about the new moon, but Alex, I gotta know how you're doing. It's been a minute since we've hung out. What's up? How's Sag season?
I mean, it's great, but it has like this undercurrent of emo with Mercury. Can I just say that I need to say it? I'm over the Great Water Trine. I'm over talking about it. I'm over thinking about it. I'm over discussing it. I'm over it. I'm done. And I think that's okay. I think we have to be like honest about those things when they arise. But I was like, Sag season feels great, but it just feels like there's this undercurrent of do I have to dredge that up again? So that's kind of how mine's been going. How about yours?
Here's the thing, water, when it accumulates, it's freaking heavy, right? Mm-hmm. And so I am definitely in that same vein of feeling the emotional weight of what it is we've been working through for the last, 7 weeks? Now, for the audience to know, we're recording this under the Mars square to Saturn while Mercury is amid that water trine. So we could be feeling a little bit of that heaviness too. But yeah, it's been some deeply emotional, intense, shall I say, cathartic work. At the end of the day, it's been good, right? But like you, I'm ready to move on. Let's get some fire and burn this out of here.
Exactly. I feel like I've collected my tough truths. I've gone with my clipboard. Yes. And I'm okay, tough truth number 1, tough truth number 2. And now it feels like Mercury's in a Sag and deal with it.
Yes.
You have to deal with your tough truths. Enjoy.
Right. Hopefully Mercury is helping us with the tools though. Yeah. To deal with that, right? Isn't that, this has been the third pass of Mercury in this water trine. We're figuring it out, right? As I'm crossing my fingers.
Well, I think that, it's interesting. So I just made a recording for my Substack about Mars and Saturn. It was my weekly update for my Substack subscribers. And I was thinking a lot about how sometimes there's an impetus, especially Mars and Saturn are getting together, and Mars is ruling Mercury right now for the next few days at least. There's that feeling of just the gas and the brake and all of that sort of stuff too. But there can also be this feeling of urgency that you're spinning your wheels. I just have to do something, and it's I feel like just that little bit of hang on of Mercury and Scorpio. Now, granted, it's opposing Uranus, but let's just pretend that's not happening, and Mercury's just Scorpio. There's fans it's okay that you're coming out of these depths, and you may not know exactly what to do. And sometimes, with Mars and Saturn, the urge to do that thing right now is just just take a beat. You can do that, but take a beat. Consider it, plan it, but I think that friction in the air with Mercury hanging out in Scorpio is very uncomfortable, kind of grinding gears type of feeling right now. But that's changing. By the time you guys see this, that'll all have changed. We're just telling you what's happening now.
Well, mostly, I think, because this airs on Saturday the 13th, almost a full week before the new moon in Sagittarius on the 19th, I think we're still speaking to some important energy that might be lingering in the air right now. I think that Mercury involved in all of this, like you said, it lends to some sort of freneticism. Is that a word? I know frenetic is a word.
I'll explain that. I have Mercury and Sag. Make up whatever you want.
Yes, the freneticism of it all. But I think it's true that what you mentioned about taking a beat, like, I think that is, I can count on one hand all of the lessons I've learned throughout these water trines. They've been very potent, but one of the most important has been that feeling of like, if you're not ready to go, don't go. Take a beat, right?
Oh.
Prepare yourself. What are you rushing for all the time? Why do you have to run? Why do you have to freaking move toward your goals every single minute? Can't you just practice resting, receiving? Like that, when Venus entered the water trine, a couple weeks ago now, that was so potent for me then. I just took a random day off because I was like, you know what? Venus is telling me to sit on the couch and watch this Netflix show I want to watch, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like this, it's so funny you say that because you're in a much better way articulated what I was trying to say, which is this sense of like, you know, especially with all the Jupiter alive in the air right now, right? Mars in Jupiter's sign, Saturn's in Jupiter's sign. There's this sense of like, we get so caught up in this, just take the leap, man. Just do the thing, you know, don't slow down. It's just like, yeah, do that. It's just like, sometimes it's just like, just take a beat, you know, and stability is not a bad thing. Practicality is not a bad thing. I think they're a little less romantic. They're a little bit less, you know, sexy to talk about sometimes, but they're necessary. And like, you know, I think that the upcoming astrology has a lot of that. I think the new moon has a lot of that. I think we are in very different territory once we hit the beginning of the year, because then we have you know, Capricorn in January and Aquarius in February. It's just like the inner planets stamping Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces as they move through it. That's very different. But I think right now it's like just not confusing your dreams with the actions you need to take. Like, it's great to have the dream. It's great to take actions towards the dream. But like, I have finally figured out, it's taken me almost half my life to get there. You can have a dream with a plan. You can have a dream and say, okay, that's an amazing thing that you want to do, but you don't have to throw everything over to go do that. It's okay for it to be stable in the process. And I think that's Saturn's blessings. And I will sing Saturn's blessings for the rest of my life, because poor Saturn just gets everybody's crap. But, you know, sometimes you need that, because God knows Mars and Sagittarius could just be like, do it, man. Just, you know, keep going.
Let's fucking go. Remember, I have Mars and Sagittarius natally, so
I'm a Sag
yes.
Sun, so.
You know, I relate for sure. Okay, I could say so many things. I feel like we could make this an episode retrospective on the water trines. But I think we talk about the Sagittarius new moon too, because what is happening here, what we talked about, this push and pull between doing and going and the responsibility of it all and the seeing it through, is offset by this aspect of pausing to allow the integration to happen, right? And isn't that what any moon cycle, not even a Sagittarius moon cycle, but any moon cycle teaches us, right? The way the sun and the moon work together are those beautiful feminine and masculine, or yin and yang polarities, where we can strive like the sun and we can receive like the moon. And so I think this new moon in Sagittarius is going to help open up a little more of that receiving nature, yes, but like about getting clear about our beliefs, right? Like, because in order to go anywhere, we have to understand and stand on a foundation of our own beliefs and philosophies, right? So comment on that while I figure out how to share this screen on this new device I'm using.
Gather round while I pontificate.
Thank you.
Gather round. So I always used to say to my yoga students, when a yoga teacher randomly in the middle of class says go into child's pose, that means they forgot what they're doing. Yeah. And they need a hot minute.
Yes.
So
It's the improv moment.
I'd bring them down to child's pose and be like, what this is code for, you guys, is I completely lost my place in the sequence. Give me a second. And I'll be right back with you.
Exactly. I'm like, I got to figure out how to use this thing.
I really love that about what you were saying about your own beliefs, because that has been a big theme personally for me recently. And I think that Sagittarius's great strength is the ability to synthesize vast quantities of information. Like the opposite side, Gemini just gathers information. It doesn't necessarily need to be orderly. It doesn't necessarily have to make sense. It's just bits of information. And you can just if you don't need AI if you're married to a Gemini. Just go to what's this? Boom. The information's there. But Sagittarius is always taking that information and synthesizing it into a narrative, synthesizing it into a philosophy, synthesizing it into a code or an inner morals or inner moral or value system. And so knowing what that is, and maybe because this new moon, can we just jump into new moon?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
The new moon squaring Neptune is a little bit about like, what are my beliefs versus where have I merged with other people's faith, value, moral system that may not be in alignment with that. The square. And I think that squares are not as scary as they're often made to sound. They're friction, they're dissonance.
Yes.
They make you notice something. Right? Like a trine, it's just like, this is cool. Like, I like this. Like, whatever. Right? Yeah. It doesn't always mean positive. We just went through grammar trines and, we just had our discussion about that. But the square is confronting, is the word for it. Like Dana was using the word confronting for Mars in one of the episodes we did. And I thought it's confronting. The squares are the nature of Mars. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, no, I think that makes so much sense. And that's one of the biggest, if we're looking at the chart on the screen for those who are watching today, this new moon is exactly square to both Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And, at the same time it's squaring Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, it's in the superior position here too, right? So I really like that the moon is kind of like the new moon, the sun and the moon are in this moment of tension, in the overcoming position where like we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out so that we know. We're asking the big questions, right? We're asking the big questions so we understand the answers to them ourselves, right? Yeah. And I think it's also, we can keep talking about this Saturn-Neptune square, certainly, but I think it's also worth noting, we have a pileup of planets in Sagittarius still. Yes, Mars has cleared Sagittarius and is now in the third degree of Capricorn, but Venus is conjunct this new moon. It's at 24 degrees and the moon is at 28, so it's 4 degrees, not 3 degrees, but I'm going to count it. I'm going to count it as conjunct, okay? Right. I think it's there, right? And so with Venus tied to any lunation, it's like, yeah, it's asking like, what do you want? Like, what do you actually want to do? What do you want to do regarding those beliefs, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like Venus to me is always about what we pull to ourselves. What are we pulling in? What are we drawing in? Venus is pretty exactly square to Saturn here. I'm off by a degree. Right. And the other thing, is we have the overcoming position. So those of you who are interested in astrology and looking at charts, if you don't know this, the planets to the right influence the planets to the left, basically. So if you're standing in the center of the wheel, you're looking over at Pluto here in 2 degrees of Aquarius. The new moon's to the right, Saturn's up to the left. So the new moon is overcoming Saturn or exerting its influence on Saturn. Actually, all the inner planets are exerting their influence on Saturn. Mm-hmm. That speaks to me more of our, especially in Sag, our individual hopes, aspirations, value systems, belief systems, confronting a more entrenched, dogmatic system of thought of some kind, or it's an entrenched dogmatic system of belief, or maybe even confronting some sense of conscious or unconscious spiritual guilt. That's something at least Saturn and Pisces has been teaching me. I might be projecting a little bit from Saturn being my 8th house, but there's a little bit of this. I can have a vision for my life that is my vision for my life. I can have my belief system and value system for my life as long as I'm not hurting myself or anybody else, right? That I can move forward with. And Saturn and Pisces is a little bit to me like, you might be bumping up against a little, but if you were just a little bit of a better person, you would do that, right? Or like you didn't actually read
the guilt trip.
Yeah, the guilt trip, right? Well, if you read the second paragraph in the 4th page of blah 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 blah, you'd know that that's actually, like that sort of stuff. But I also think too that Saturn and Pisces also reminds us of where we're obligated, and we do have obligations to other people. We do have sometimes obligations to responsibilities that we've taken on, and it can't all just be like my vision and where I'm going, And so I think that's the interesting balance over the next month until the new moon in Capricorn, which is also a trip, but we'll get there when we get there. Because Jupiter ruled signs just run so much on belief and hope, and faith. There's something here about the balance of those two things against like what are my actual obligations and what am I just telling myself I'm obligated to out of guilt, that kind of feeling.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really interesting because it's also worth noting that obviously both of the ruler of both of these signs, like you said, there's so much Jupiter here. Both Sagittarius and Pisces are Jupiter ruled. Now, Jupiter over here in Cancer, it's retrograde, but it's doing just fine in Cancer. But it is in aversion to the ruler of this new moon, can't see it. So between a Saturn-Neptune square and the ruler in aversion to the moon, we might be coming up against some of those questions that don't feel very good, that ask us, what the hell is it all for anyway? You know what I mean? That quintessential Sag nihilism. But what's interesting, and I love when you talk about our responsibility to obligations and sort of managing our own beliefs or coming up against certain personally held dogmas that might be in our head. It's when so I don't know, some of you may know that I have a podcast on YouTube and each podcast talks about each lunation. At this point, when this episode comes out, my new moon in Sag episode won't be out yet, so I'm going to give it away here. But what I couldn't help but seeing is Jupiter is Zeus, right? Jupiter is over here in Cancer on vacation. It's retrograde, so he's got no self-service, right? He's just doing his thing. He's transformed into some sort of animal and trying to, mate with some human woman. That's like Zeus in every tale, right? Sorry, that went a little deep.
It's fair. That's a pretty fair assessment.
That's Zeus for us, right? But then look at all of these gods in or near Sagittarius. Doesn't it look like all of the gods are convened on Mount Olympus while Zeus is away just doing his thing, And what happens when all of these gods get together is they're vying for power. They're trying to figure out how to collaborate with one another, right? And how do we move forward when we might have so many different competing beliefs and points of view, right? So I love that you bring that sort of obligation responsibility piece into it, because it's kind of like these gods are, covering for Zeus while he's while he's out on vacation,
sometimes you gotta just go lie on the beach for a little while and you have to have someone else cover your email. It's kind of like that. I love that analogy for it because
it's so weird.
It's so true. I mean, Zeus is many things, but I was just reading one of my mythology books downstairs, and I was just like, "Damn, Zeus! Wow, okay." It's some interesting stories. Anyways, that's completely off the point of this. What was I going to say? So, but to add to all of this, desire to find clarity, squaring Neptune.
I know.
Look, everybody, figure out what your beliefs are. Because it's like, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's like what?
It's like, here's the thing with Neptune, and those of you who listen to this podcast know that my ascendant ruler is directly conjunct Neptune. I mean, almost to the minute conjunct Neptune. So as I joke with clients sometimes, I'm getting a PhD on Neptune in this lifetime, and
that means you psychic people.
Yeah, yeah, straight up, I am. Also, it has taken me much of my life up to this point to suss out what is me and what is somebody else.
Yes, and the projections.
Yeah. And not accepting the projection of somebody else to be my identity. It's really, it's a thing. It's a vibe. I've gotten much better with that. It's taken a lot of work, but I've gotten much better with that. And what I would say with this new moon is that there may be something where I'm trying to explain like how this has come up for me. It's like, you may have inadvertently taken on somebody else's value system without realizing that you did. And that can almost create its own reality for you. In other words, it feels like it's your value system. It feels like it's your moral system. It feels like it's your philosophy on life. But if you actually kind of dig down, and I think this is Mercury's gift coming out of Scorpio, as much as I was just ragging on Mercury and Scorpio, I think this is the gift coming out of Scorpio is like, if you go down into the bottom of your heart, and your heart has the heart chakra is divided into three places. There's the base heart below, right at your breastbone. The middle of the breastbone is the center heart, and then the upper heart is right just below the throat. That base heart is where you tend to know that you know. It's that place where it's just like, I know. And you breathe down there, and you just feel that space, and you're like, I know that there's a way of seeing the world that is mine, and it's a valid way of seeing the world. Now, the extreme of Sagittarius is my way of seeing the world is the way of seeing the world. And thank God I see the world that way, so you can all see the world that way, right? That's the extreme of Sagittarius, maybe of all the fire signs in some way. But I think that this opportunity here is to differentiate, a little individuation, a little differentiation of like, this is my belief, value, moral system. And the hurdle or the threshold offered by Saturn is, but can you overcome that little bit of like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? You don't want to get it wrong. Maybe this is the Virgo. Like, you don't get it wrong. But like, there's that little bit of like, but am I sure? And it does require to really, I think, move through those kinds of initiation experiences. It requires some faith and requires faith and trust in yourself.
Yes. I mean, you're not wrong to bring Virgo in either, whether or not we both have very strong Virgo placements, because Mercury here is actually at the bending of the nodes, right? It is tying together these nodal themes of fate and destiny, right? All at the same time that we're talking about and thinking about what we believe, and it's a new moon, right? So it's how we are seeding this new cycle of belief, right? And I think if I can name like one top theme for this, in the way that you're talking about sorting out like what's mine, what's yours, what are my projections that I'm dealing with, it's like, what do you burn for? You in your soul. What do you burn for? Because like, we're going to light it up in 2026. Like, we've got all these fire trines coming in 2026. And so, I kind of see some of this laying the groundwork for that ability to, jump into more forward action with our strongly held notions and beliefs in 2026.
Oh, taking us to church. Yeah, exactly. Because, 2026 will light up much more passionate energy and going into 2027. And you know, it's a funny thing, and I'm trying to relate this a little more generally because there's a specific situation I'm thinking about, but I'd rather just share it more generally. You know, you have the ability to merge, which is very Neptune, right? When Neptune sees everything as itself, everything is primally one, you know, and that sort of idea. It's very difficult sometimes to know. You sometimes inadvertently rely on somebody else's point of view to give you your value, moral belief system. But I believe strongly that we all know what that is for ourselves. We definitely know when we cross it. Like your body knows when you cross your own values. Your body knows when you cross your own philosophies. You just feel it inside yourself. And this new moon to me is like a challenge of alignment while still maintaining practicality with Saturn there. And I think that because what we're talking about here is very idealistic stuff. And yes, you may discover those things, but there may be the way out of it. To me, looking at this is not like I just, you know, go on some sort of crusade, which is very sort of like Neptune too, right? I go, you know, like I'm establishing my thing. It's like I can know what those are, and I can also practically take steps to align with it in a way that doesn't feel like it totally vaporizes something. Because God loved Jupiter signs, but the impetus to take an action that may be destabilizing based on faith can be very strong.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Neptune does feel really, really strong in this lunation, and you know, obviously in that exact square. And it's just really interesting to me what is happening over the next, I mean, we'll just say the next month or so, month and a half broadly, because the other thing about this new moon, right? Since September, since that Virgo eclipse, we've been experiencing these very late degree new moons, right? And so we've got this 28-degree new moon, which means essentially that we're starting a new Sagittarius cycle, but one in which we're stepping forward into Capricorn basically in a day or two, right? And so, like, what does that mean, right? Like, it is like we are harnessing these, like, this knowledge of self-understanding, right? To then, like, start putting it to work, you know, to simplify the Capricorn objective, right? Is to push forward, to bring this up the mountain, you know? And the reason why I bring that kind of forward facing into this that I think is so interesting is that the relationship that both Venus and Mars have with this new moon Sag here, I mean, we can basically say that the new moon is conjunct both, at least close enough, right? Yes, Mars is on the other side of the sign boundary, but there aren't like lines drawn in the sky. You know what I mean? It's like close enough, okay? we're still gonna feel it. And not to mention the Antisha that's present here. But why this feels like a preview or like a prelude is because our next two lunations, the full moon in Cancer and the new moon in Capricorn, are both, well, the full moon is opposed Venus and Jupiter, and the new moon in Capricorn in January is conjunct Venus and Mars. So there's so much of this, like, it's like passion and desire and will, right? And this like creative sort of like catapulting energy that I think is just really interesting to note how it's like so moving us forward here.
Yeah, it is. And it's, you know, I get a big speech about practicality, but it gets more practical too. It gets more like, okay,
right.
Here's the task, and here's, you know, we're gonna slog up the mountain with it. And that's another thing too that I think is so important about when you're looking at astrological weather, just in a general sense, is that it's like the weather. It changes. It's really nice here yesterday. It's freezing ass cold today. It's just the weather changes. And when you're in long cycles like the Grand Water Trine, right, and then you're coming into the Sag season, which is a little extended because of Mercury's retrograde stuff. It can feel like that's the way it's always been. It's like you lose track of the fact that, the astrology of the summer felt very different than it does right now. And the astrology at the beginning of the year is going to feel very different as well. So I think that don't lose sight of the hope on this one. I think, even though the hope could go a little overboard with Neptune involved, particularly, don't lose sight of the hope. Venus is conjoining the sun. Yes, she's under the beams. We can go through all that stuff, but she's close by. They're under the rulership of a benefic. I'll take this. I'll take this. I think that it just keeps striking me like it's okay to stabilize yourself while you realign with your values is my big thing about this. It's okay to have, it's so easy for Jupiter ruled signs to feel like I'm out of integrity with my values and I have to reestablish that integrity at all costs. Whatever I do, it's just well, yeah, but you're growing and changing as a human being. And as you do that, many people I've known, for instance, that I've known who've opened yoga studios, because I, taught yoga for so long in and around the area, a lot of them worked their other job for a year while they opened, because they had a vision of what they wanted to do, but they also realized, kids still have to go to school and bills still have to be paid.
Right.
This is an expensive undertaking to, have this whole space cut off. So it's you're not being, what's the word I'm looking for? Incongruent with your own self. If you're just realizing, okay, well, I need to make a change and I can make a plan for that change. Yeah. The impetus right now could be I have to jump. It's just let me just make a plan for it. Little by little. Right. Realign little by little by little. And Saturn allows for those increments. That's fine. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. And I think I can comment two things there. I think in the way that this new moon, similar to the rest of them since September and basically through May-ish, we have these late degree new moons. You said something about having hope. It doesn't have to be so heavy, and I think there's this aspect of these late degree new moons that might feel a little bit disconnected, or we might feel a little disconnected, right? Where the gears aren't quite turning as smoothly right now, or things aren't quite clicking into place so well, right? I'm also looking at that Saturn-Neptune influence on this moon, and that's okay because it's meant to be that way. You know what I mean? We can have hope that we move forward in the time that is right for us and in the way that is right for us. And then I guess the only other thing I would say is that, we've got a square to Saturn, Neptune here, rulers of Earth, blah, blah, blah. But, Sagittarius likes to have fun. You know what I mean? I can see this being a good day. I know it's we're talking about some kind of heavy things like weight of the world, right? Existentialism. But I think there's some potential here to have a good weekend. This is a Friday night. Have a glass of wine or whatever you like to do to relax. A glass of kombucha.
I'm so glad. You know what I love? I just thought that I'm like she's bringing it back to basics. We got into it's Sag. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this. We're fun. Being fun. Yeah. No, can we be obnoxious? Yes. Yeah. I have.
Can we maybe
obnoxious moments? Oh, that.
Or maybe have a little too much fun.
Yeah. A little too much fun.
Take it overboard.
Yeah. That has happened. But I think that I was thinking about the way this week looks and moving into the new moon, and when you guys see this, the inner planets will all be in Sag. It is a very different feeling than the existential feelings of Scorpio, and nothing is Scorpios.
Yes.
I love you guys. I love working with you. It's one of my favorite signs. But it can be hard for Scorpio to let go and just be like, it's just okay to go out and sing karaoke one night because it's super fun. It's okay to, like, you know, just because it's fun, just because it's enjoyable. And I think that that's such an integral part of this, because the other thing too is, you know, if we make it all serious again, is you can't do all this deeper work unless you integrate it with some play. And I think play is so underrated and so underappreciated that it, especially because we do a lot of work, you know, if you're watching this, you know, you do a lot of work just by watching this. It's like you're doing your inner work, you're doing your inner healing. You may be going through something really tough, and, you know, I'm sending my love if you are. But there's also a sense of, like, all of that healing can't settle when you don't put it down for a night and just go have a fun night with your friends. Or you just watch something just because it's fun to watch. It doesn't carry any big philosophical meaning. It's just fun.
Yes.
You spend time with your family, and it's just fun. You know, that's an important part of this all settling too. I'm so glad you brought it up.
No, I love that, and I think that that's a good. You know, it's always good to end on a high note, and I think that's a real good way that we can wrap this up. You know, it's like when I was looking at this new moon and kind of forecasting what's on the horizon, like, yeah, if we're asking all of these big questions and untangling our beliefs and philosophies, like, at the end of the day, how do you keep your spirit light? You know, you're not meant to be weighed down. You're meant to feel lightness and free.
Oh, all right. I know we're trying to end, but we're talking.
Just keep going, my friend. Give it to us. We all want it.
One of the most important lessons I ever got at the beginning of my Buddhist studies, which was, I was young, I was in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, is when teachers just looked at me, you know, because Buddhism does discuss a lot about suffering. You know, the first noble truth is there is suffering in the world. So, you know, there's suffering. And he just kind of looked at me and goes, it's about joy. And I'm like, yeah, but it's about joy. The suffering. You know, one of the things I think is so important with Buddha taught, just quickly on this, is that suffering is not natural to the state of the mind. It's ubiquitous, but it's not natural. And that the natural state of the mind is openness and joy. And so I think that when we remind ourselves of that, and I know it can be tough right now, and a lot of people are going through some tough stuff. The world just feels like a massive shit show in a lot of ways. But it's just to remember the fact that, like, the whole point of all of these practices is joy, is your natural state, and that is your natural state, and that you're good. And fundamentally, at the base of your being, there's nothing wrong with you, you know? So I think this is a very hopeful new moon with all of the little sprinkles that we put on it too.
Oh, you really hit my heart with Sagittarius's arrow with that one. You know, my Saturn Uranus is at 29 degrees.
Oh, you were
Sagittarius.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, like exactly minutes. And so you said those words, and there's a way that Saturn and Sagittarius too, which obviously is in a direct square right now, can really hold a lot of this same weight that we've been talking about. So thank you for those words. Thank you for ending us there. I think the audience will appreciate that moment of lightness, joy, right? Yeah, joy, lightness, keeping your spirit light. How do you want to promote yourself today, Alex? Where can folks find you for a reading?
Hi, I'm Alex. You can find me at my website, alexamorosi.com. You can book readings with me there. I'm starting to transition more of my reading work towards what I call my kitchen sink readings, which is basically like sessions where I just have all my tools available to you. That's how I work best, and one of the things I'm settling with. So that's going to start in sometime in January. I'm going to have that transitioned over. So we look at your chart. We can look at some cards. I read you intuitively. I just have like everything available, and it works.
You use your Neptune.
I use my Neptune.
All of that.
You know, that Neptune, I've trusted that Neptune, even though it can, also
your
the
little
opposite.
feelers.
Those feelers. Sometimes you don't listen to it with Neptune because you're like, did I just see that? Did that just happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have. Anyways, that's what I'm going to be transitioning that. But you can book those on my website, alexamorosi.com. You can also book energy healing with me there. It's all done remotely, over Zoom. And if you have questions about any of that, you can always fill in the contact form on my website and send me a message, and I'll happily get back to you. I may be a little bit delayed because of the holidays and stuff like that, but I would happily get back to you.
I'm happy you're taking some time off over the holidays. So am I, and I recommend that everybody does this time of year. It is so dark and cold and nasty out there that we need our time to hibernate, right? Amazing. Well, you can find me at astroarcana.com to book a reading. Like Alex, it's that time of the season, right, where we are transitioning our offers. I'm not going to give too much away at this moment, but I am transitioning the offers that I'm giving in 2026. So you'll want to watch my socials for those announcements. And in the meantime, what that means for you is snag a reading at the prices they're at right now. I'm basically booked through the rest of December, but hit me up for January appointments. We can talk about your year ahead, all of the things. I also want to make sure to promote Alexandra Blair couldn't be here today. You can still catch at this point the last session of our 2-part year ahead astrology workshop called Fault Lines and New Frontiers, the dramatic astrology of 2026. We are covering the entire year, high-level themes, transits to watch. We're including beautiful visual vision boards for each month. And on top of the $75 2-part live workshop, we also have a workbook offering available as an add-on. I have spent so many hours on this thing, you guys. It is almost 50 pages, and each month we talk about the theme, journal prompts, rituals and reflections, other sorts of integrations, and a full transit list. So sorry, that was a little longer of a promotion than usual. I'm excited for it. You can book, maybe I'll comment where you can sign up for that last Fault Lines and New Frontiers event. You'll get the recording from the first one. And, all the other stuff is on the website and the socials. Instagram, astro.arcana.astrology. Woo! That was a lot. If you guys don't know, we kind of hate promoting ourselves, so...
Any of the Virgos, Pisces out there, do you feel us?
Yeah. We made it. We made it. Don't be fooled by our mutual Leo risings. It's hard shit. All right. Well, what a great...
Fun.
This was so fun. Alex, have a wonderful holiday. Everybody else out there in the world, you too. And we will see you very soon on our next episode of Weekend Wisdom. Bye.
Bye, everyone.